The story of Saudi Arabia is inseparable from the story of one family, the Al Saud. For nearly 3 centuries, this powerful dynasty has shaped the destiny of the Arabian Peninsula, transforming a vast expanse of desert into a modern, influential nation. Their journey from the leaders of a small town in the heart of Arabia to the rulers of a global energy superpower is a tale of ambition, faith, and strategic alliances. The family's roots trace back to the rugged region of Najd in central Arabia, an area known for its harsh climate and independent tribes. It was here, far from the coastal trading hubs, that the foundations of a future kingdom were laid, not just with swords and politics, but with a powerful religious ideal. This unique combination of political leadership and religious mission became the cornerstone of the Al Saud's power. In the mid-18th century, a historic pact was formed between Mohammed bin Saud, the ruler of the small oasis town of Diriyah, and Mohammed ibn Abd al-Wahhab, a puritanical Islamic scholar. This alliance gave the Al Saud's political ambitions a divine purpose, framing their conquests as a righteous effort to purify Islam and unite the tribes of Arabia under a single banner of faith. This partnership would prove to be remarkably resilient, surviving defeats and exile to fuel the family's rise time and again over the centuries. The path to creating the modern kingdom of Saudi Arabia was not a straight line. It was a long and often difficult process, marked by periods of expansion, collapse, and renewal. Historians divide the Al Saud story into 3 distinct phases known as the First, Second, and Third Saudi states. Each state represents a major chapter in their long struggle for dominance, showcasing their ability to adapt and rebuild in the face of immense challenges. From their early beginnings in a small mud-brick settlement to their current status as custodians of Islam's holiest sites and leaders of a G20 economy, the Al Saud have navigated a complex world. This essay will explore the remarkable journey of the Al Saud Dynasty. We will examine how each of the 3 Saudi states was formed, how they grew, and what led to their eventual decline or transformation. We will see how the discovery of oil in the 20th century provided the wealth to build a modern nation from the ground up, funding everything from highways and hospitals to schools and cities. We will also trace the lineage of its kings, the evolution of its system for choosing a new ruler, and the dramatic changes now underway, which are reshaping the kingdom for the 21st century and beyond. The story of the first Saudi state begins in the year 1744 in the small dusty town of Diriyah in central Arabia. This was a time when the Arabian Peninsula was a patchwork of competing tribes and small emirates with no central authority. The ruler of Diriyah was a man named Mohammed bin Saud, the patriarch of the Al Saud family. His ambitions might have remained local if not for the arrival of a charismatic and controversial religious reformer named Mohammed ibn Abd al-Wahhab. He preached a strict puritanical form of Islam, calling for a return to what he saw as the original uncorrupted faith and a rejection of practices he deemed idolatrous. Fleeing persecution from other towns, Ibn Abd al-Wahhab found refuge and a powerful ally in Diriyah. The pact formed between the 2 men was transformative. Mohammed bin Saud would provide the political and military muscle, while Mohammed ibn Abd al-Wahhab would provide the religious ideology. The prince agreed to champion the scholar's cause, and the scholar in turn declared that those who fought for the Al Saud were fighting for the cause of God. This powerful fusion of political ambition and religious zeal gave their movement a unique advantage, inspiring fierce loyalty and justifying their expansion across the peninsula as a holy mission. With this newfound purpose, the Al Saud began to expand from their base in Diriyah. Their forces, motivated by faith and a share of the spoils of war, began to conquer neighboring oases and bring local tribes under their control. Over several decades, the first Saudi state grew to dominate most of the Arabian Peninsula, including the holy cities of Mecca and Medina in the western region of Hijaz. This expansion brought them into direct conflict with the Ottoman Empire, the dominant power in the region, which viewed the rise of this new Arabian power as a direct threat to its authority and its claim as the leader of the Islamic world. The end of the first Saudi state came swiftly and brutally. The Ottomans, determined to crush the upstart state, dispatched a large and well-equipped army from Egypt under the command of Ibrahim Pasha. After a long and difficult campaign, the Egyptian Ottoman forces reached the Saudi capital of Diriyah in 1818. They laid siege to the city for months, eventually forcing its surrender. In an act designed to erase the state from existence, they completely destroyed Diriyah, razing its walls and buildings to the ground. The Saudi ruler was captured and taken to Istanbul, where he was executed, bringing the first chapter of Al Saud rule to a violent close. Despite the complete destruction of Diriyah and the execution of their leader, the spirit of the Al Saud and their religious mission was not extinguished. The memory of their powerful state and the ideals of their alliance with the Wahhabi movement lingered among the tribes of Central Arabia. Just a few years after the fall of Diriyah, the surviving members of the Al Saud family began the difficult process of rebuilding their power base. The man who led this revival was Turki bin Abdullah Al Saud, a grandson of the founder of the First State. He managed to escape from Egyptian captivity and began a guerrilla campaign against the remaining Ottoman Egyptian forces. In 1824, just 6 years after the fall of Diriyah, Turki bin Abdullah successfully recaptured the town of Riyadh, a small oasis settlement not far from the ruins of the old capital. He declared Riyadh the new capital of the revived Saudi state, a strategic choice that symbolized a new beginning. The second Saudi state was born. It was smaller and less expansionist than the first, focusing primarily on consolidating control over the central and eastern regions of Arabia. The core alliance between the Al Saud rulers and the descendants of Mohammed ibn Abd al-Wahhab was reaffirmed, once again providing the state with its essential political and religious legitimacy. The second Saudi state faced constant challenges that made its existence precarious. Unlike the first state, which enjoyed a period of relatively unified expansion, the second was plagued by internal divisions and family rivalries. After the death of its founder, Turki, his successors fought amongst themselves for control of the throne. These internal power struggles weakened the state significantly, consuming resources and attention that could have been used to fend off external threats. The constant infighting created opportunities for other regional powers to challenge Al Saud authority and chip away at their territories. The final blow to the second Saudi state came not from the Ottomans, but from a rival Arabian dynasty, the Al-Rashid family of Ha'il in the north. The Al-Rashid had been former vassals of the Al Saud, but grew in power as the Saudi leadership fractured. Taking advantage of the internal Saudi disputes, the Al-Rashid expanded their influence, eventually marching on Riyadh. In 1891, the Al-Rashid forces conquered the city, forcing the reigning Al Saud leader Abdul Rahman bin Faisal to flee into exile with his young son Abdulaziz. The family found refuge in neighboring Kuwait, and for a second time the Al Saud had lost their kingdom. The period of exile in Kuwait was a time of reflection and planning for the defeated Al Saud. The young Abdulaziz ibn Saud, who had grown up hearing stories of his family's past glory, was determined to reclaim his ancestral homeland. He was a charismatic, physically imposing, and strategically brilliant young man who inspired deep loyalty among his followers. In the winter of 1902, at the age of just 26, Abdulaziz embarked on a daring mission that would change the course of Arabian history. With a small band of only about 40 loyal men, he made a legendary journey across the desert to the gates of Riyadh. In a surprise night raid, Abdulaziz and his men scaled the walls of the city and stormed the Mazmak fortress, the heart of the Al-Rashid garrison. They overwhelmed the governor and his guards, and by the next morning, the flag of the Al Saud was once again flying over Riyadh. This audacious act captured the imagination of the people of Central Arabia, who began to flock to his banner, seeing him as the true heir to the legacy of the first two Saudi states. The recapture of Riyadh marked the beginning of the third Saudi state and set in motion a 3-decade-long campaign of unification that would forge the modern nation of Saudi Arabia. Over the next 30 years, Abdulaziz methodically expanded his control. He fought and defeated his rivals, the Al-Rashid, securing the northern territories. He conquered the eastern province of Al-Aqsa, gaining control of the Persian Gulf coastline and its valuable pearl diving industry. His most significant victory came in the 1920s when he conquered the Hijaz region in the west, bringing the holy cities of Mecca and Medina under his protection. This made him the guardian of Islam's two holiest sites, a title that brought immense prestige and legitimacy throughout the Islamic world. He had successfully united the disparate regions of the peninsula under his rule. On September 23, 1932, having consolidated his vast territories, Abdulaziz ibn Saud officially proclaimed the unification of his domains, renaming them the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He became its first king, and the state he founded is the one that exists today. He ruled over a vast but impoverished kingdom, its economy dependent on pilgrimage revenue and subsistence agriculture. The task ahead was immense: to build a modern state, create a national identity out of diverse tribal loyalties, and secure his family's rule for generations to come. Little did he know that a discovery buried deep beneath the sands of his new kingdom was about to provide him with the means to do all that and more. Just as King Abdulaziz was consolidating his new kingdom, a discovery was made that would fundamentally alter its destiny forever. In 1938, after years of searching, American geologists working for the Standard Oil Company of California, which would later become part of Chevron, struck oil in commercial quantities at Damam Dome No. 7. At the time, no one could have fully grasped the scale of this discovery. The kingdom was sitting on top of the largest proven crude oil reserves in the world. The initial revenues were modest, but they provided a desperately needed source of income for the young, cash-strapped nation, which had been struggling to survive. The outbreak of World War II temporarily slowed down the development of the oil industry, but in the post-war era, global demand for petroleum soared. Saudi Arabia's oil production skyrocketed, and with it, the kingdom's wealth. The trickle of revenue turned into a flood, transforming the nation's finances from near bankruptcy to, honestly, unimaginable riches. This newfound wealth was managed through a partnership between the Saudi government and the American oil companies, which formed the Arabian American Oil Company, or Aramco. Over time, the Saudi government would gradually increase its stake in the company, eventually taking full ownership in 1980. This immense oil wealth gave the Al Saud rulers the resources to launch a modernization program of unprecedented scale and speed. King Abdulaziz and his successors used the oil revenues to build the infrastructure of a modern state from scratch. They constructed roads, ports, and airports connecting the vast and previously isolated regions of the kingdom. They built hospitals and clinics, bringing modern healthcare to a population that had been plagued by disease. They established a national education system, opening schools and universities for both boys and eventually girls, dramatically increasing literacy rates across the country. The landscape of the kingdom was transformed. Small towns like Riyadh and Jeddah grew into sprawling modern metropolises with gleaming skyscrapers, wide highways, and bustling shopping malls. The government established ministries to manage the country's affairs and created a welfare state that provided its citizens with free education, free healthcare, and subsidized utilities. The nomadic Bedouin tribes were encouraged to settle in new communities, and a new generation of Saudis grew up with access to opportunities their parents and grandparents could never have imagined. Oil did not just make Saudi Arabia rich, it fundamentally reshaped its society, economy, and its place in the world. Since its official founding in 1932, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been ruled by a succession of kings, all sons of its founder, King Abdulaziz. The first king, Abdulaziz ibn Saud, who reigned from 1932 to 1953, was truly the great unifier. His primary achievement was forging the kingdom itself, bringing together warring tribes and disparate regions into a single nation. He laid the groundwork for the modern state by establishing government ministries, signing the crucial oil concession agreement that would fund the nation's future, and forging key international alliances, particularly with the United States. His legacy is, quite simply, the very existence of Saudi Arabia as a unified political entity. Upon Abdulaziz's death, he was succeeded by his eldest son, Saud bin Abdulaziz, who reigned from 1953 to 1964. King Saud's reign was marked by the first major wave of oil-funded development. He oversaw the establishment of the kingdom's first universities, expanded the school system, and poured money into infrastructure projects. However, his reign was also troubled by accusations of lavish spending and poor financial management, which led to a national debt crisis. These challenges created a power struggle within the royal family, ultimately leading to his abdication in favor of his more fiscally conservative brother Faisal in 1964. Faisal bin Abdulaziz, who reigned from 1964 to 1975, is widely regarded as a key modernizer and a skilled statesman. He implemented austerity measures to stabilize the economy and created a more rational system of government administration. He also cautiously introduced social reforms, such as the establishment of television broadcasting and the expansion of education for girls, despite conservative opposition. On the world stage, he became a prominent leader, famously leading the 1973 oil embargo against Western countries that supported Israel, an act that quadrupled oil prices and demonstrated the kingdom's newfound global economic power. His life was tragically cut short when he was assassinated by a nephew in 1975. Faisal was succeeded by Khalid bin Abdulaziz, who reigned from 1975 to 1982, and whose reign benefited from the massive oil revenues of the late 1970s. He continued the development projects of his predecessor, focusing on heavy industry and agriculture. His era saw the creation of the Gulf Cooperation Council, a political and economic alliance of 6 Gulf states. He also faced the immense challenge of the 1979 seizure of the Grand Mosque in Mecca by religious extremists, a shocking event that led to a more conservative turn in Saudi society. After Khalid's death from a heart attack, Saud bin Abdulaziz, who reigned from 1982 to 2005, took the throne. His long reign was defined by the 1990 Gulf War, when he made the critical decision to allow United States and coalition forces onto Saudi soil to defend the kingdom and liberate Kuwait from Iraqi invasion. He also adopted the title custodian of the 2 holy mosques to emphasize the kingdom's religious role. After he suffered a debilitating stroke in 1995, his half-brother Abdullah became the de facto ruler. Upon Saud's death, Abdullah bin Abdulaziz, who reigned from 2005 to 2015, formally became king. He was a cautious reformer, known for promoting interfaith dialogue, opening the country's first co-educational university, and appointing women to the Advisory Shura Council for the first time. He also established the Allegiance Council to formalize the process of succession. He was succeeded by the current king, Salman bin Abdulaziz, who has reigned since 2015. King Salman's reign has been defined by the rise of his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and the launch of the ambitious Vision 2030 reform plan aimed at transforming the kingdom's economy and society. For decades, the transfer of power in Saudi Arabia followed a relatively straightforward, if informal, system. The throne passed from one son of the kingdom's founder, King Abdulaziz, to another, generally moving from the eldest to the next eldest surviving brother. This horizontal or fraternal system of succession was unique among monarchies and ensured that the kingdom was ruled by experienced older leaders for much of its history. The king, in consultation with senior members of the royal family, would appoint a crown prince who would be the heir apparent. This system worked well for 2 generations, providing stability and predictability. However, as the sons of Abdulaziz grew older and passed away, it became clear that this system could not last forever. The time was approaching when the throne would have to transition to the next generation, the grandsons of the founder. This presented a significant challenge, as there are hundreds of grandsons, and choosing one over all the others could easily lead to internal family conflict and instability. The sheer number of potential claimants from different branches of the family made the old, informal method of consensus building increasingly difficult and risky for the long-term future of the monarchy. In an effort to manage this complex future transition, King Abdullah took a landmark step in 2006 by creating the Allegiance Council, or Al-Hayya Al-Bay'a. This institution was designed to formalize the process of succession and make it more transparent and institutionalized. The council is composed of the surviving sons of King Abdulaziz, the sons of his deceased sons, and the sons of the current king and crown prince. Its primary role is to vote on and approve the king's choice for crown prince. It also has the power to select a new king if both the reigning monarch and the crown prince were to die at the same time. The establishment of the Allegiance Council was a significant step toward modernizing the monarchy's internal rules. It was intended to ensure a smooth transition of power to the third generation of princes and to give a voice to the various branches of the sprawling Al Saud family. However, in recent years, its role has been tested. In 2017, King Salman bypassed some of the council's traditional procedures when he promoted his own son, Mohammed bin Salman, to the position of crown prince, replacing the previous heir. This move signaled a shift toward a more vertical, father-to-son line of succession, concentrating power within a single branch of the family and marking a new chapter in how the kingdom chooses its future rulers. The most significant force shaping Saudi Arabia today is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, often known by his initials MBS. Since his father, King Salman, ascended to the throne in 2015, the Crown Prince has become the de facto ruler of the kingdom and the architect of its most ambitious transformation in history. He represents a new generation of leadership, one that is determined to move the country beyond its deep-seated dependence on oil and prepare it for a post-carbon future. His rise to power has been swift and decisive, marked by a consolidation of authority that has centralized control in his hands to an unprecedented degree. The centerpiece of his agenda is Vision 2030, a sweeping and ambitious blueprint for economic and social reform that was unveiled in 2016. The core goal of Vision 2030 is to diversify the Saudi economy, reducing its reliance on oil revenues which have long funded the state. The plan aims to achieve this by developing new sectors such as tourism, entertainment, technology, logistics and mining. A key part of this strategy is the Public Investment Fund, the Kingdom's sovereign wealth fund, which has been empowered to make massive investments both at home and abroad, funding futuristic mega-projects like the $500 billion city of Neom. Alongside these economic reforms, the Crown Prince has initiated a series of dramatic social changes that have altered the fabric of daily life in the kingdom. In a remarkably short period, the government lifted the long-standing ban on women driving, allowed cinemas to reopen after a nearly 4-decade hiatus, and began permitting public concerts and entertainment events. Rules on gender segregation have been relaxed, and the powers of the once-feared religious police have been curtailed. These reforms have been widely popular, especially among the kingdom's large youth population who have embraced the new social freedoms and opportunities. However, this top-down revolution has also been accompanied by a firm consolidation of political power and a low tolerance for dissent. The social opening has occurred alongside a political closing, with crackdowns on activists, critics and even senior members of the royal family. An anti-corruption campaign in 2017 saw dozens of prominent princes and businessmen detained at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh, a move that was seen by many observers as a way to both sideline potential rivals and centralize economic power. This blend of liberalizing social reforms and authoritarian political control defines the complex era of transformation under Mohammed bin Salman. The journey of the Al Saud family is a compelling saga of endurance, adaptation and transformation. It is a story that begins in the arid heart of Arabia with a small tribal emirate and a powerful religious idea. The historic 18th century alliance between the political ambition of Mohammed bin Saud and the religious vision of Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab provided the ideological fuel for a movement that would, despite setbacks and defeats, ultimately unite the Arabian Peninsula. This foundational partnership proved strong enough to survive the collapse of not one, but two Saudi states, demonstrating a remarkable resilience that paved the way for their final triumph. The creation of the third Saudi state under the visionary leadership of King Abdulaziz ibn Saud marked the dawn of a new era. His 30-year campaign of conquest and unification forged a modern nation from a collection of disparate and often warring regions. But it was the discovery of oil that truly propelled the kingdom into the modern world, providing the Al Saud with the financial resources to build a state where none had existed before. The immense wealth from petroleum funded the creation of a modern infrastructure, a comprehensive welfare system, and gave the kingdom a pivotal role on the global stage as the world's leading energy supplier. Over the decades, the leadership of the kingdom passed from one of Abdulaziz's sons to the next, each king leaving his own mark on the nation's development while navigating the complex challenges of his time. They managed the nation's vast wealth, oversaw its rapid social and economic development, and upheld its unique status as the custodian of Islam's holiest sites. To ensure stability, they created institutions like the Allegiance Council to manage the delicate process of succession, preparing for the inevitable transition of power to the next generation of the family. Today, under the dynamic and assertive leadership of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia is undergoing its most profound transformation yet. Vision 2030 represents a bold attempt to reimagine the nation's future, breaking its addiction to oil and opening up its society in ways that were once unthinkable. The journey of the Al Saud, from desert rulers to global leaders, is a testament to their ability to seize opportunities, overcome adversity, and continuously reinvent themselves and their kingdom. Their story is far from over, as they steer their nation through the complex challenges and promising opportunities of the 21st century.